right then. Evolution tends to put functionality at the top. Like for evolution, colored flowers don't need to be colored because bees are seeing black and white. So the flower color is just for us. Now, a bee will come in and land on a flower, and it follows markings in the flower, but it's not with visible light like we see. It's with infrared. Literally, on a lot of flowers, if you use an infrared camera and look at the flower, you'll actually find it looks like an airport. There's lines and arrows, so the bug literally kind of follows those to get where it needs to go. Evolution doesn't put any value on beauty. But there's an awful lot of beauty in nature. Of course, this is a totally unscientific approach. But you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Take a look at these. They're beautiful. Thank you, Ronnie, for
You're
bringing
very
us.
welcome.
I've never understood how physicians who study the human body can call the human body a random accident.
It's beautiful. I mean,
is.
you're beautiful.
Well, thank you. But we all are. I mean, you
Yeah.
know, and working with doctors who don't believe is like, really?
Yeah, yeah.
You took
Well, a
anatomy
lot
and
of them just
physiology?
believe in themselves.
This is true.
So
This is true.
here's another one that
As a
Ronnie
nurse
brought.
speaking.
And
Do you know what
the nurse
this is?
speaking.
It's squid. It's a squid. So sometime this afternoon, get up here and feast your eyes on these. Wait a second, squid. They're like they're like
Slimy.
slime.
Yeah.
I mean,
They're
they have a
delicious.
little-
Yes,
Just go
They are. I should have brought, I actually have some that I just bought yesterday.
That's just hilarious. My God, made it for us to eat. Okay, so let's go ahead and start. The summary of the geologic column that we finished talking about yesterday. And Randy, you know what I'm going to do?
Turn the recorder on.
I'm going to turn the recording on. I didn't do this the first night, so I owe it to Randy to start it now. Testing, there we go. We talked about the geologic column. It's used by many scientists to, in their mind, prove the progress of development of animals. You know, the evolution of animals. But we saw that it really doesn't. And that there's a lot of reasons why the geologic column points more to creation than evolution. So we can summarize it. The geologic column is not evidence of the gradual evolution from a common ancestor to all life we see today. It's not. If at best it's a really pitiful random collection of different animals. It's not like looking at an ice cube melting on a video. You know, you can actually see the progress. The geologic column doesn't show progress. It shows blips of different creatures. Instead, it's like the record about deaths of living organisms in a single worldwide event. The geologic column was made all at the same time. Now, I have to admit and realize that if you date the bottom layers, they come out older than the top layers. Using potassium-argon dating, significantly, like billions of years older. So if you have a strong belief in the science of isotope dating, then that gives you a real hard place to be. Because if it is that much older, then we can't call it the flood that made it. So it's not without some difficulty that we look at the geologic column. However, one way you can say is, oh, okay, so it's not a single event, or you can say there's something wrong with the dating methods that are being used. And we're going to actually look at that in a little bit. All right, over here. Perhaps the geologic column does not prove evolution at all. Let's consider the fact that the geologic column has some things about it that really fly in the face of evolution. So, we're going to go through, I think, 6 or 8 different things that really question the concept concept of evolution being the way that the geologic column is made. So the first one, fossils of sea creatures are found high above sea level. Well, how high? How did sea creatures get high above sea level? You know where that rock came from?
The Andes.
The Andes. The Andes
Well,
are a little above sea level.
Those shells from Morocco are dug in the Atlas Mountains.
Yeah, I'm going to show you a picture, it could be the same one, but a picture from the Atlas Mountains where they came from.
Yep.
So here are real, tangible, this is a chambered nautilus,
I don't know where that one came from.
okay? These guys are found on the tops of mountains. It's a sea creature. How did it get up there? Okay, so an evolutionist says, well, uplift. Thrust. Push this under the sea rock up into the mountains. Okay? That does happen. There are thrusts. There are mountains that are created by the ground getting pushed together. Basically, just like when you push your fingers together, you push harder, pretty soon they'll buckle. So that is mountains. And you know, as creationists, we believe that those mountains were created at the time of the flood. The world doesn't look anything like what God created. During the flood, there would have been massive changes to Earth's crust. Had to be. And part of that was the buckling. But that's not why there's sea creatures on the mountains. Let's look at a couple more. Here's British Columbia. Anybody name that fossil? Trilobites. They're in France. Here in Kentucky. In the mountains. It's not a one place it happens. These are on Mount Everest. Isn't that like the tallest mountain in the world? Mount Everest, yes, I agree, it was pushed up, but see, here's Chile. I was thinking it was Morocco, but here's Chile, and there's some ammonites. Isn't that amazing? You climb up the top of a mountain, and there's a bunch of seashells
Yeah,
around.
they had those in Morocco.
Did they have
too,
those
and they
as
were
well?
huge. Yeah.
Yeah, these ones, there's some of them that are a foot, 2 feet in
Yeah,
diameter.
they had them in front of some of the stores, the vendors that were selling them that were
Yeah, put that in your luggage.
the
and take it
biggest,
home.
yeah.
You see, what we have to think about is that these creatures, first they had to get fossilized. That couldn't have happened on the top of a mountain. Okay? That's a difficult. And then they have to be transported. What type of event would be able to build Mount Everest in such a way that billions, and because, I mean, I can't even think of how many billion tons of rock are put up into the air. How tall is Everest? Is it 5 miles tall?
Something, I don't know.
4.6 miles tall? Miles! There's something going on here. So let's talk about some features of the geologic column as well. So fossil formation is extensive and inclusive with all forms of life. That's important. Because it doesn't just have this the simple forms of life. All forms of life. We're going to play a game here. I'm going to put some fossils up on the screens, and I'm going to ask you to tell me what they are. You see, evolutionists tend to give us the idea that everything that's fossilized is from the far distant past in a simpler and undeveloped form. That everything we have here today is a result of millions of years of development, evolution. So we're going to go and we're going to get some, according to the evolutionists, really old fossils, and we're going to see how different they are. Okay, so here, numerous large fossil graveyards are found around the world. If you want to be a, what do you call those guys who dig in the dirt? Look for bones? Paleontologist, right? You don't have to travel to Brazil. Now, there are some places that have more than others, like Morocco.
Right here, this is right here in North Carolina.
Right here in North Carolina, there are lots of fossils. You just have to keep your eye open for it. Okay, so there's these large fossil graveyards are found around the world where individual animals are fossilized by the thousands, fully articulated. See, that's a problem for evolution. Find a fossil somewhere, one, it's like, okay, so the thing died and got covered and we're all done. But when you find 1,000 of the same animal, all laying down one on top of the other, you have to ask, what are they doing? Are they lemmings? One died, so they all died? I mean, it just doesn't work that way. And how would you cover that many creatures deep enough that they would fossilize? Fossilize bones, organs, skin, scales, hair.
Can we count arrowheads as fossils in any way?
Okay,
The
so
only
that-
reason I'm asking is because a friend lives up on a mountain in Asheville, and they lost a huge tree in a storm. And when they went out, they started finding arrowheads, and everybody assumes, okay, they're Cherokee or whatever. They had a geologist come and carbon date them.
Yeah.
They were over 10,000 years old. And there were literally thousands of them.
Wow.
I mean, it's incredible.
See, now that's fascinating. That would be anthropology, because it has to do with humans. But it's definitely looking into the past.
Yeah.
In Wyoming, at the Green River Formation, there's an eclectic mix of reptiles, including alligators, fish, deep sea bass, chub, pickerel, herring, gar, pike. What do you notice? Deep sea bass and pickerel. What's the difference between those guys?
Fresh.
Fresh and salt
Yeah.
water. So you got freshwater fish and saltwater fish. How is that going to happen? That's kind of head scratching. Gar, pike, in addition to birds, mammals, mollusks, insects, and palm fronds. You see, when they talk about the geologic column, they make it sound like everything fits in this nice, neat progression. No. Sometimes you'll come to a pocket of fossils and it will be like someone just dumped a box of creatures into the mix. Jellyfish. Jellyfish don't make good fossilization.
No, you wouldn't think so.
I mean, if you're going to fossilize something, get something big with big bones. That'll fossilize, right? That's easy fossil.
Or
How
even
do you
tissue and
fossilize
muscle.
a jellyfish? I mean, you've walked on the beach over here in the coast, right? Jellyfish dies, washes up on the beach in about, half a day. It's nothing but mush and cartilage. After a while, there's just a piece of the dome left. Do you realize what it requires to fossilize those guys? I'm going to show you some pictures in just a few minutes about fossilized jellyfish. Yeah, and they're preserved here in Australia out back, preserved by the millions, in an area that is, wait for it, 400 square miles. Miles! And it's solid jellyfish. All different varieties. That doesn't just happen with a rock slide, okay? This is a big flat area and the place is just covered with jellyfish.
Where's
How
that?
do you explain that?
Where's that?
That's in the outback of Australia. Yeah. The last one, exquisite details are preserved in the animals. They're in real shots, lifelike positions. Okay, what's going on here?
He's eating another fish. That's
Can you
incredible.
believe that? Now, I didn't have to, with my superior paleontological knowledge, tell you what was happening, did I? I didn't have to tell you that was a fish. Did you say it's a bass?
Could be.
I'm not sure what kind of fish it is, but that's not some prehistoric fish that you could hardly recognize. Now, that thing was eating while it was buried. It died eating. How great is that?
What a way to go.
You know?
Yeah.
I'll take that.
Isn't that amazing? Here's the jellyfish.
Oh my gosh.
It's not just jellyfish, it's jellyfish you can name in a moment, and the details are there.
Wow.
You could get out a dissecting scope, that's a big fancy magnifying glass, really powerful, and you can look at it and you can find such detail. It's not some squashed puppy on the side of the road. It's all there. So as an evolutionist, that's difficult to explain because How fast did things get fossilized? Instantaneous or over millions of years? Jellyfish don't hang around. Oh wait, no. You guys go ahead and rot. I'm going to be fossilized. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so from the reading that I've done, the water sprang up from the earth and it also rained during
Yes.
the flood.
Mhm.
So it sounds like, based on this, what we're looking at, that it was an extremely violent
Exactly.
situation,
Yes.
very abrupt,
Yes.
not what we've been kind of
Yeah.
taught.
The flood was not some, like you're filling a bathtub.
Yeah, yeah.
It was an extremely violent event. So, if you go back to where God made the world, it says He separated the waters from the waters, the water above and the water below.
Right.
Some people think water on the ground from water in the atmosphere. But what if it was water, think
Below
about
the
it's
ground.
breaking from the deep, water under the earth and water above the earth. So lakes, rivers, streams, and oceans, seas on top, and then aquifers. So when the flood came and basically the tectonic plates broke apart, that water would have been under extreme pressure. And so the pressure down would force it into fountains up. Add to that volcanic activity. You've got some major upheaval, but if the water's coming from below, what's it going to take with it? All kinds of sediments. So the sediments are literally fountained up, and then the sediments and the water come down, and you're going to have animals trapped deeply and quickly. Let's take a look at this. Here's a way to kind of look at how to make a fossil. You can't just lay it out on the ground and wait for, the dust to settle. Dust does settle. I mean, sometimes I think we could make fossils in the dust that forms at my house, you probably can relate. But it's not fast enough to bury. It has to be rapid, deep burial. It has to be rapid in order to prevent decomposition. Makes sense, right? It has to be rapid to prevent scavenging. Because you know yourself, the other day I went out front of my house and I looked up and there's these vultures spinning. I'm like, what's the deal? What do you know when you see vultures fairly close to the ground and they're just something's dead around here? Didn't take me long, I found the neighbor's cat there out in the lawn. No, it was a dog actually. And it's like, guys, that's what's going to happen if it's not rapidly buried, okay? Disarticulation, basically, coyote takes the leg bones that way and possum takes the, other leg bones that way, and pretty soon we've got the thing spread over a long area. Yes?
Have they ever found any human fossils like this?
Very excellent question. And that is a tough one, because human fossils have not been found in the lower layers. Would we expect that with the flood?
Yeah, why not?
We wouldn't expect human fossils there. Of all the creatures that are going to be able to get up and get out, the humans are going to be the most. So you're going to expect the humans in the upper layers, okay? And we do. We find human fossils in the upper layers. But when we find them, guess what? They're called names like Anthropithecus and Neanderthal. So we do find humans, but they are called cavemen and pre-humans,
Yeah, what about the,
humanoids.
I can't think of what it was, the volcano that,
Vesuvius?
yes.
That
all of
buried
those,
people?
Yeah.
Sure. And you can find lots of, they're actually not the people. People are long gone, but the cases the people were in are, there. So yes and no. Okay? You don't find human skeletons in the numbers that you would expect. But we have to realize this is a very big planet. And with something as violent as the flood, unless there are millions of a creature, it's not going to show up. I mean, if you dig enough, you're going to find them. Does that answer your question, sort of? We're going to talk a little bit later about that again. Okay? So it has to be rapidly and deeply buried. If it's not deeply buried, Coyotes can smell it and they'll dig it up. If it's not deeply buried, the oxygen will get down there, it'll oxidize and will go to nothing. Literally. Like here's another reason why you don't find human skeletons, unless it's really arid, very dry, or a tar pit, bones deteriorate. Collagen, your bone's made of two things, collagen and calcium. So collagen is a tissue like cartilage, gristle, the stuff when you're eating your hamburger, you come out with this little gristle thing, that's collagen, okay? That will break down, bacteria will break that down, and once that's broken down, all you have is a calcium form of the bone, and that very quickly dissolves. So if there's water and bacteria, the bones take a very short time and they're long gone. That's why you can go to a graveyard and try to dig up somebody who's 50 years buried. They're gone. You won't find anything. Bones will be extremely brittle. And so you would have to have the humans fossilized. And if you think about what would have happened during the flood, perhaps very few humans were buried rapidly and deeply enough to maintain fossils. Okay? You got to get rid of decomposers. It's got to be deep. Otherwise, worms and other creatures, I mean, there's a wealth of decomposers that dig through the soil. Fungus digs or scoots through the soil and breaks things down. So it has to be rapid and deep. If it's not deep, it'll bleach. If it bleaches, I mean, even dinosaur bones that are fossil, if they're exposed too long to the atmosphere, the fossil's gone. That's why you'll see them in the field. They'll cover them with plaster, trying to keep the oxygen and air and sun away. So it has to be fast, it has to be deep, or it will not fossilize. So we were just looking at a fish, so I thought I'd put this up here. You know, this is what usually happens. Fish dies, and what does the fish do? It floats. So how are you ever going to get a fish fossil? Because as it's floating, other fish are going to have lunch, and you're going to have pieces. I mean, that doesn't look anything like this beautiful. What kind of fish is that?
Angelfish.
It's an angelfish. How come you could just you must be a paleontologist.
I'd love to be.
You knew exactly what that fish was without even studying it.
Yeah.
Do you agree, angelfish? Yeah. You know, that looks just like what I saw in an aquarium a couple weeks ago. Chances are that thing's like 1,000,000 years old. Must be a good design. Hasn't changed in 1,000,000 years. Here's one of the things you have to realize, that the party line is a party line. That is amazing. Absolutely amazing. No, this is how you get fossils. Little Mr. Fishes go along, and all of a sudden the flood happens, and the silt comes and absolutely buries them. Rapidly, deeply. And then it's able to fossilize. And look, all the bones are in this right place. It looks like it could just swim away. And that's what you find. So take a look at this one. Okay? Remember I was telling you about this area where there are literally thousands of the same kind of creature all on top of each other? So here's an example of this. Oh. Let me see if I can point out a head. There's a head, 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 there's a head. It's like there was a whole bunch of lizards in the same area, and they're all, notice, the head, the spine, the legs, here's this one's head, spine, legs, that one's head, and they're not broken up or mixed up, they were all rapidly buried
All going
and
in the same
fossilized.
direction.
Yeah. You see, that's not evolution, is it? That's rapid deep burial, which is well explained by the flood. So number 3, a large-scale water-based cataclysmic event. Give me a short word for that. Flood, exactly. Okay?
Yeah, that looks like they were all running from something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or sleeping in the sun.
Yeah.
Something, but there's
Or sitting on the very top of the hill before you got
Yeah, before we got
maybe that too. Maybe that too. We find massive fossil graveyards where large numbers of organisms are buried together, each articulated, laying one on top of each other as though they were killed, washed together, and then buried. Boom. It happened. There's not even the bloating that you would expect. See, an animal dies, it bloats, and that actually breaks ribs. It actually disarticulates the animal. You don't see it here. These guys died and were rapidly buried. We find other fossil beds, different variety, where it's almost 100% bone. There's no rock between them. It's almost solid bone, where animals that looks like they decomposed, and then their bones were washed all together, sorted, because the bigger bones are on the bottom, little bones are on the top. Just what you'd expect if animals were killed, floated, and then as they decomposed, settled, but were washed by wave action into a location. Just like you see at the south end of a pond, or a river, a lake. You'll see all the garbage from the lake gets washed into that one little cove. I pity the people who have that spot. But they get to clean up the garbage from the whole lake. Okay? We may find whole locations articulated, but found in unnatural positions, like this one. Any idea what that is?
It's got wings.
It has wings, even has feathers,
Yep.
and it's got 4 appendages on its feet.
And claws.
It's a bird. Now it's a weird kind of bird, because look at these hooks on the front wing. But it's completely bird. This doesn't have to be half reptile, half bird, although that's what it is touted. But do you see how its neck is kind of back? It's actually broken. The neck is broken. This is called the death pose. I think it's called the death pose. But you see this all over the place.
But it's even, you can see the feathers on the tail.
Yeah, this is fascinating. How in the world? This is like a roadrunner type creature. You know, there are birds that still have these hooks on their wings. Is it the frigate bird? It's the one that has that big red pouch in the front. Blows it up. I think it's called the frigate bird. But yeah, it has a long tail and there's feathers that come off the tail. Oh, it's fascinating. Looking at fossils is absolutely fascinating. They're anything but simple. Here's one of those boneyards I was telling you about. The bones, there's like very little other than bones. Just enough rock in between the bones to kind of glue it together in a mass. And bones from all different kinds of creatures. Why is that important or interesting is because that's the type of situation that you see when water washes things together. Water is the grand sorter of materials. Things that are the same density, they tend to get washed together. Look at this one. Study this a little bit. The top and the bottom are different ichthyosaurs. Something's happening in the top one that's not happening in the bottom one. This is just an ichthyosaur, okay? Like a dolphin, okay? It's got its pectoral fin, it's got caudal fins here, it has some fins down in the back, it's got its tail fin. That one there, same kind of thing, slightly different fossil. You see its head, you see its caudal fins, you see the pectoral fin up there. What's this thing coming out of it?
Exactly. So the baby one being born? Yeah.
Oh, it was
Giving birth?
fossilized during giving birth?
It was fossilized while it's giving birth.
Oh, that's terrible.
Yeah,
I
because you
know.
can see the head.
It's horrifying.
Well, I see it.
Yeah, here is the eyeball of the baby, right there.
Oh.
It's in the process of being born. Bad day to choose to be born, huh? How does something like that happen?
Quick.
It's gonna be a rapid, deep burial. There's another, this isn't the same one I had over here. This is a different one. And again, you have no trouble figuring out what that is. And it's just taking a mouthful. Actually, if you think about the way fish are, predatorial fish often look for times when the other fish are distracted and then scarf them up. But how long does it take? How long does a fish hold another fish in that position? I mean,
Seconds.
it must have happened in just a flash, just momentarily. Here again is the death pose. Okay, this is a big dinosaur. It's a raptor, velociraptor. But you see the head?
Yeah.
That's often the pose you find with these guys. Okay? It's the way the neck will go on a dead creature. It's just been thrashed and it's getting washed back, scrunched up. Okay, this one is especially fun. It's going to take you a minute to figure out what this is. Okay? So, here's the head of the creature.
It's on the nest.
There's its chest. Okay? Here's one arm, there's another arm, and here are the legs. Okay? Feet, knee, hip. Feet, knee, hip.
Are those eggs?
And what are these under here?
It's on a nest.
It's a dinosaur on a nest. Which blows your mind, because if they're cold-blooded creatures, you know what I'm saying? It makes no sense. This is one of the reasons why people think maybe they weren't cold-blooded creatures. Maybe they were hot-blooded creatures. Warm-blooded creatures. Maybe it's shading the eggs. Okay, could be that. Maybe it went up in the sun, got hot, and then came and shared the heat. We don't really know. But isn't it something that is on a nest?
Incredible.
That's a momentary, see, this whole concept just helps you to realize it had to be momentary, very quick.
Oh.
Woolly mammoth. Now, he didn't die and get buried in rock. This guy's frozen solid in ice. Does that fit with the flood? Does the Ice Age fit with the flood? What do you know about the Ice Age?
That's about what I know.
It's cold, sure.
It was a violent event as well. They
Yes, it
found
was.
Animals with food in their mouths. And
Yeah, green food in the creature's mouth. Chlorophyll that's not, it needs to be like having your green beans in the freezer for, 1,000 years, but they still have chlorophyll in them. Had to be rapid burial, but not burial by rocks, but burial by snowpack. The Ice Age, is it a real thing or not? It's a real thing.
It's real.
What do evolutionists say about the Ice Age?
What did what?
What do evolutionists say about the Ice Age?
Climate change.
Okay, they talk about climate change, they talk about volcanoes, they talk about blocking the sun's light out. How long did the Ice Age last?
They're talking like it took a very long time.
That's what I'm looking for. The evolutionary idea of the Ice Age is that it took a very, very long time to come on. It lasted a long time, took a long time for it to go away. The difference with a creationist or a flood scientist is that we can explain how the Ice Age could be produced very rapidly. It's like a nuclear winter. Produced very rapidly, doesn't have to last a long time, and then will recede rapidly. And if you think about it, when you read the biblical account and that the floodwaters started to recede and then all of a sudden they were gone, that's pretty amazing. Where were they put? How could they recede? Where would God package them and put them? Well, see, the Ice Age helps us in two ways. Number one, it helps us understand where all the water went, but it also helps us to understand how God got the earth covered with fresh water instead of salt water. You see the problem there? So how do you prevent salt water from destroying the fertility of all the earth? Well, the salt water is drained away, and then you have, because of evaporation, saltless water that is then dumped into the polar regions. Those polar regions grow and produce glaciers and produce the Ice Age and push all of the good soil off of Canada. Y'all should be very glad to have our good soil. Right? And then it melts and makes things like the Grand Canyon. We're going to talk about that too. Where did the Grand Canyon come from? Well, we'll talk about it. Okay, features of the geologic column. 95% of all the fossils are marine, that means saltwater, invertebrates, clams, worms, jellyfish. 95% of all fossils are marine. That should tell you something. That's a very interesting concept. We'll come back to it. 4.7 are plants and algae, 0.2% insects, 0.1% vertebrates. That's all the dinosaurs and all the creatures, all the animals. 0.1%. Most of the fossils we find are invertebrates. There's something missing here. Only a little less than 5% are plants. What about all the rest of the plants? I mean, those animals would require extensive vegetation to survive. Extensive forests. Have you ever seen those fossils of ferns that the trunk of the fern is like this big around? Where is all the other plant matter? Answer? Fossil fuel. Remember I was telling you, all the fossil fuel that is pulled out of the earth for the last 50 years at incredible rates, and there's still more. And that's at like a 10 or 15 to 1 ratio. How in the world could there have possibly been enough vegetation to make that much oil, natural gas, coal? Well, here's your answer. So that's why I say it's a little deceptive. Okay? Next one. Extensive, okay, this is just a feature of the geologic column. Extensive, homogeneous, that means it's all the same, layers hardened in sediment beds across vast areas of the continents, in some places worldwide. You've seen the White Cliffs of Dover? No, maybe you haven't seen them. You've seen pictures of them. Okay? That stuff that makes up that layer in Dover also makes up layers over here in North America. How far apart is that? How in the world could we have the same layers that far away from each other? What I'm saying here is you'll find the same layers around the world. It had to be all made at the same time. If it wasn't made at the same time, you wouldn't have them. No, let me say it more clearly. No small event could possibly create the same layers over such a vast area. You've got to understand that there's a lot of information, a lot of evidence in our world for the flood. Okay? That's all what I just talked about. Okay. You recognize what this is? I'm going to talk just a little bit more about coal. I've got a piece of coal here if anybody needs some for your brother's stocking. Yeah, I got this when I was in the sixth. No, I'm kidding. I deserved a lot, but. So, we're talking about extensive sediment beds across, sorry, that's the wrong one. Here we are. Surprisingly thick coal beds. And we've really already talked about this. What's the ratio? How much vegetation?
10 to 1.
10 to 1. So, when you see a coal mine like this, and you realize, okay, the coal is in a seam that's, I'm saying, 300 feet deep.
Wow.
I'm not making that up. Look at the size of the excavators.
And those things are huge. I worked
Yeah,
on a
they
coal
are.
mine. One tire takes both lanes of a road to haul in, and they have to construct them on site.
Yeah, they're
It's
huge.
unbelievable.
They're
So
huge.
I'm estimating slow or conservatively at 300 feet. This is in I think Pennsylvania, and it's 100 miles this direction, 100 miles that direction, 200 miles that direction. This is a huge bed of coal. So multiply that by a factor of 10. That would have taken a huge pile of compost to make that coal. Okay, so we're talking about the flood. The flood explains how that could have happened. You see, with the violence, the vegetation is stripped, and what does vegetation do when it gets stripped? It flows. and then the winds, the wave action will wash it together, deposit it. That's the only way you can get coal of that magnitude. And that's coal. You'd have to squash this coal bed with heat and pressure another 50% to turn it to natural gas or oil. So when you think of these vast oil fields, you have to think, wow, the coal took a pile of vegetation this big, the natural gas, the oil, would take. How do you grow? How do you accumulate in one place? And how do you cover, bury, and fossilize that much coal? There's nothing short of a worldwide flood that can explain that. Here's how coal is made. Okay, I think I've already kind of explained it. You have just peat, which is just a bunch of compost. You squeeze that to about 50%, water gets squashed out, and you have something called lignite. Lignite is a kind of coal. It's very porous, very light, burns very poorly, produces lots of sulfur gases. Squeeze it more, you get bituminous, and then anthracite. Anthracite's the best coal you can get, except for the sulfur that it gives off. But you can see it's like, whew, you have to really squeeze it down. Okay, so I touched on this yesterday. Geologic layers give evidence for either rapid or no erosion between layers. Remember, I was telling you that layers were laid down, and evolutionists believe that there were billions of years between layers. You have to have that because the creatures that are in one layer fossilized, and the creatures in the next need a billion years to evolve into the next creature. Okay? That's their mentality. Problem with that is that the layer that is laid down would have had some serious erosion and just pitting and water erosion, sand erosion, wind erosion. But when you look at the layers, they're surprisingly flat. Like if we started at the top and peeled the top layer off, we'd find a nice smooth surface. Peel the next layer off, nice smooth surface. Now I'm not saying it can't dip and turn, we'll talk about that in a minute, but it's just nice, parallel, and it runs for miles in every direction. The only way you can get that is if you have rapid, deep burial. Okay? If the layers formed as the evolutionary model suggests, there would not be distinct layers, but rather gradations. You'd go, you want to take a break? Okay, let me just finish this. You'd go from one, it'd be red here, and then gradually it would get black. Rather than red with another layer of white in between with a layer of black. And so what you get is all kinds of evidence that it had to be rapid and deep.
Tim, that center one, that pink and white, is exactly like what I brought back from Morocco. That
Yes.
piece. I mean, it looks just like it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That piece that's sitting on the table.
Okay, let's take a 5-minute break.
Ooh.
When we come back, we'll look at
Could you leave that screen up?
bending of rocks.